Welcome back to Meeke. I'm so glad that you've decided to stick around today, and I am really excited to have Tammie Tubbs in studio with me. She is the host of the Tammie Tubbs Show, and you should catch it. It airs weekdays at noon on the CW. In fact, here's why you should catch it. Take a look.
I celebrate you, you celebrate me. With our hand in hand, we are walking in our destiny. Come on and let me show you here. Yeah, celebration time. Ooh, yeah, yeah, it's a celebration.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I want right now, ladies, for you all to sit down and relax. One of the things that I'm very much known for is just being real, transparent. And on today, my guest, Ms. Candid Lockett, is going to just empower you to burst out of the shell that you're in. The depression, whether it's molestation, the rape, the hurt, the rage, the anger, all those things that you've been dealing with. You know, there comes a point in time in your life where you have to subdue it before it subdues you.
Tammie Tubbs is an incredible radio and TV talk show host. She's also an amazing speaker and minister to women from all walks of life. Her mandate is to really be an encourager. People are drawn to her because of her joy. But a lot of people don't know that Tammie has suffered through major tragedy in her life. In fact, although she's a great speaker and great TV talk show host, she's not here today as either one of those. Today, she's here as a mom. And she wants to inform us about a disease that many of us, myself included, know absolutely nothing about. 8 years ago, to the day that this show will air, you lost your firstborn son, Terrence Jr., to muscular or spinal
muscular atrophy. SMA, that's what we call
SMA
it.
for sure.
Yes.
Because, you know, I thought even as I was reading and doing all the research and looking at this stuff, I thought I can't even say it, much less know what it is. But that's what you lost your son to.
Yes.
And he would have been 12 years old this year.
Yes.
A lot of times, Tammie, you know, as the person who is hosting the show, you're on the other side. So you get to kind of ask a lot of questions. And there's a lot of you that isn't revealed. But today, we're discussing this disease and kind of your journey and why through it all, because not only did you lose your firstborn son, but 2.5 months later, you lost your second-born son to the same disease.
And I'm still smiling.
And you're still smiling, and you still have joy.
I do.
You started journaling about your journey and about what you were going through, and that journaling turned into this book entitled I Still Have Joy. And today we're going to talk about SMA and kind of let people know what it is, how they can get involved. But we're also going to hear about your tragic, just testimony. I mean, it's amazing that you've been able to go through something like that. So I tell you what, let's just start at the beginning. What is SMA? You
know, when I think about SMA, personally, I think of it as what is, I guess, known for a rare genetic disorder that is the #1 genetic killer for children under the age of 2. Many people I think look at it as a childhood form of Lou Gehrig's disease. I'm sure you know what Lou Gehrig's disease is.
Yes.
And so it becomes one that you're trying to figure out what is going on. Why does my child have respiratory problems? Why are they belly breathing? Why do we have to suction them so much? Why are they drooling? Why can they not hold their head up? Why can they not hold, their hands, their arms, even stand up on their own 2 feet? So for me, it was a disorder that should have taken me out after losing my 2 children, but it strengthened me to be able to empower women. About 25,000 people actually suffer from this disorder. I mean, it's one of those diseases where you just shake your head and say, oh, my babies, God, why have you forsaken me? Those were my thoughts.
Because there's nothing you can do about it. And just to kind of give some
There is no cure whatsoever.
There's no cure.
No.
1 in 6,000 babies affected. There are varying degrees of SMA.
3 different types.
Okay.
Type 1, 2, and 3.
And
my
your
boys
babies
had type 1, the most severe.
The most severe. And is that the one that would normally take the life of kids before the age of 1? Before the age of 1.
Before the age of 1. That's the prognosis that most children, there are some that are born and 2 months, 3 months, they're gone. Because there's a respiratory failure, and what it does, it actually makes your muscles deteriorate. And your heart is actually a muscle. So my oldest son, when his heart stopped, he was gone.
That was it.
There was no resuscitation whatsoever. I mean, when it stops, the muscle stops, it's gone.
Tammie, this is what I found so amazing. And you write this in the book, I Still Have Joy, that, okay, 1 in 40 parents or people are genetic carriers.
Yes.
1 in 40 people are genetic carriers of SMA. It's passed down to the kid. It has to be passed down by both parents.
Both parents.
Both parents have to pass that gene down when that child is conceived, right? And so geneticists say there is a 25% chance, 1 in 4 chance that you'll have a baby that will have this disease. And so as you guys are going through this, you know, because we're kind of jumping around here a little bit, but you eventually make your way to a geneticist and tell him that you had two
out of
children.
3.
And he said to you,
that's impossible. And that's when I think my husband and I realized that some things are just ordained by God. I know you don't want to accept it. Was it trying times? Yes, because that's not something that you want to see your child just lying on a bed where they're not able to physically move or roll over or hold their head up. And so we just had to look and say, okay, God ordained this. God has a plan and purpose for our lives. And in the midst of this, we're not going to allow this to take us out, because it can truly rip your marriage to pieces.
oh, we're going to go there.
It really truly can.
Because you put that in the book.
Yes.
You know, and I tell you what, though, Tammie, as I'm reading it, you know, and you and I have kind of pre-interviewed and talked about this, there are certain things that we as women who love the Lord and who feel like God has called us to minister to women, there are a lot of things we would be tempted to cover.
Oh, definitely.
And to pretend that they were not so.
Yeah.
But I love that you didn't do that in the book. And, you know, as my eyes just kind of read the words on the page, I just thought, she really shared that.
Yeah.
She really said that. And so we're going to talk about that today. But I want to go back because your husband is from Missouri. You are from Mississippi. You guys meet in college.
Here in Mississippi, at Awamba Community College, to be exact.
Yes, because is he like an Army brat or something? Did he travel?
No, he wasn't. Actually, and that's why I think that it was so ordained by God, because I was happy in Mississippi, but my goals were, I'm going to move out of this state because I felt as a teenager, to be successful, I have to move. I have to move forward.
So you never intended to stick around?
Never, 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 never. And I'll say that again, never. However, his father relocated here in Amory, Mississippi, and he was sick. He was diagnosed. My husband's father. He was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver, and to my understanding, my husband would come to visit. His mother and father were divorced every summer. It just so happened that the summer of 1994, when I graduated from high school, that he decided to stay in the state with his father.
Wow.
And so his dad says, well, you know what? You're going to need an education, because he knew that he wasn't going to be here long. He could not get a liver transplant, so he already knew. So it's kind of like God just kind of set it up for the most part.
Wow.
And so my husband's name, who was Terrence, he came to Itawamba Community College, and as he, you know, creatively says this, I love to wear hats. I'm the Southern belle. I love hats.
Okay.
And so he saw me wearing different color hats, and it was just this attractiveness. And it's like, well, who is this girl? And of course, I'm all about business, academics. I didn't come here to find.
You weren't focused on that.
I didn't need a man.
But he wore you down, Tammie.
He did.
Because you guys got married.
We did, and we connected. And the funny thing is, I'm Tammie Terrell, and he's Terrence Terrell.
Yeah.
So we often say that God put us together for such a time as this.
And then you find yourself in this place where you're expecting your firstborn son.
Excited.
I mean, I can only imagine the energy that happens knowing, and especially for a dad, his son is on the way.
Yeah.
And Terrence Jr. came into the world unexpected because he was early.
He was.
Right?
He was supposed to be actually born March 17th, but however, he came into the world January 17th.
Of 2000.
2000, which was my father's birthday. And in 2000 of that year, he was actually born on what I thought was such an honor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, according to the calendar in 2000. And so, but however, he was 4.5 months. I mean, 4.5 pounds. And so I'm looking at this child going, wow, he can fit into my arm.
Yeah.
But he's still smiling, has these bright hazel brown eyes. So as a mother, you're not thinking anything of it. But I did begin to consciously think that something was going on, because I left the hospital and I had to leave him there. Because he had a poor sucking reflux. as far as with the bottle. And so they said, well, you know, he's going to have to be over 5 pounds or at least 5 pounds to be able to leave the hospital.
Okay.
So that was a concern. That was a worry. But again, as a fighter, he began to gain weight.
And you guys were able to go home?
Definitely.
And how long after you were home that you said, Terrence, something's wrong with our baby?
Yes, about 2.5 months.
What did you notice?
The very first thing, I think, for the most part, as a mother, when you're cuddling and holding your child, I didn't feel the bone structure, the weight. It was like more like a plush teddy bear. And although he's smiling, you know, and he has these bright eyes, there was something that wasn't right. And when I would stand him up, he would just kind of flop. And then there was a fascination of the tongue. Like our tongue is still.
Yeah.
His never. It was always moving, just like my finger is.
Wow.
And so I was always trying to figure out, can his tongue not be still? What's going on?
And is that a symptom of SMA? So that's an indicator.
It
you would see that in a child and you would know this child has SMA.
Yes.
So did you have those moments where you start to notice something is wrong? Did you immediately tell your husband, or did you kind of go, oh, I bet it's nothing. Lord, let it be nothing.
You know how women are.
Yes.
We want to run and tell it.
Yeah.
So,
so did you go, okay.
Babe, wait a minute. Do you see this? And he's like, well, you know, let's just pray about it. Because we believe that you're not supposed to speak everything into the atmosphere. You know, that in your faith, sometimes you can see things, but you don't speak it per se, because once you put it out there, that gives the enemy, you know, time to do what he wants to do with it. So he was like, well, you know, that is odd, but. So we just kind of said but and left it there, but we began to pray. But I did, of course, inform him of it, and we called our physician, and that's where we went to Wake Medical in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and that's where the journey began. Dr. Tennyson, and I love him, you know, he walks in and he said, hey, you know, this child has spinal muscular atrophy. You know, he's not going to live to be 1 year of age. Prepare for his death. And I go, wait, hold on. Because at that time, I'm very young. I'm 20-something.
Yeah.
This is my newborn baby.
Yeah.
I'm far away from home. There's
no
mother, no father, no grandmother. There's no one. So it was very shocking to me. And just as the folder that you have in your hand, the nurse comes in and she gives me this literature. I don't want to read. I want you to help me understand what you just told me. Yeah. What is spinal muscular atrophy?
Yeah.
And
you asked her if there was a cure. You said, what do we do? What's the cure for it?
I did. There's no cure.
And she told you that. I mean, it's like it would be the phrase that no mom wants to hear who has a child that's just been diagnosed with a disease.
It was devastating that day. I can actually tell you the song that was playing on the radio. It was A Long Trip Home.
What goes through your mind, Tammie?
Why am I going through this? I was a good girl. Wait a minute, God. There are so many young teenagers who are not pregnant, you know, who are not pursuing a career, who want nothing out of life. Why am I going through this? And so my whys began to turn into why not, because that was the time where I began to get into the Word. I grew up in church, but you know, it became real to me, more so that I had to get an intimate relationship with God. I had to know that although I'm going through this, He loves me, that He's never going to put anything on me that I can't bear, that all things are working for my good. So I had to learn those scriptures and speak to myself, you know, in times where my sons would stop breathing and I would have to resuscitate them, or they would look at me as if you know, like they're about to take their last breath. I didn't have time to cry and scream and dial 911. That wasn't a conscious thing in my mind. My mind was, you know what, God, you're going to help me. You're going to grace me. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm a believer. If you ask God for the strength, the Holy Spirit will help you.
Yeah. But Tammie, I mean, that's an awful lot of strength to tap into.
It is. It is.
You know,
but
because
you know, the scripture says, you know, even when we're weak, you're made strong. It's kind of like you just do what you have to do. There were no excuses.
Yeah.
I did what I needed to do. And I know a lot of people, they look at me and they say, oh, wow, she's beautiful. You know, the material things, that did not matter. I didn't have time to put makeup on. It was life or death.
Literally.
Yes.
It was literally life and death. And so, but you, in the course of taking care of Terrence Jr., learn that, oh, we're going to have another baby.
Yes.
And it was a quick turnaround.
Yes.
Because Aaron Tyler was born in December of 2001.
18th, 2001. We were fruitful and multiplying.
There you go. You were you were filling the earth. So I'm going to ask you, did you have that moment, Tammie, where you thought, Lord, what if this baby has this disease?
You know, when I found out I was pregnant with Terrence, it was an excitement. I was full of life. When I found out I was pregnant with Aaron, it was shocking, more say, because I was so busy taking care of Terrence that I didn't realize that I was actually pregnant. And I know there are women saying, how can you possibly not know? Well, I didn't, because my menstrual cycle continued. I was so busy working.
And the stress of everything that's going on.
Yes.
And look, there's a lot more people who don't know. I think they do TV shows.
And I was very petite.
Yeah.
Just like I am now. I mean, I was pregnant and very petite like I am now. But the thought that came across my mind, and I have to be very transparent because I know I'm not the only woman that have had these thoughts. You know what? Have an abortion. You already have a child who's disabled. You might as well, you know what, have an abortion. And I had to say, wait a minute. Whoa, that goes against my morals. That goes against my values. That would be selfish of me to take this child's life.
When you thought about that, when you thought, oh, you know, well, maybe I could get rid of this child, no one would know. Couldn't you also say to yourself, and should I do this, you know, I would be doing this child a favor. Because what kind of life would this child live?
I never thought about it that way. And what I realized, those thoughts were not mine. That wasn't Tammie. That wasn't me. So, and we're going to get a little bit into this and talking about woman to woman. That's where woman to woman birthed out of, because it was two different phases of Tammie Tubbs. There was this depressive side that was saying, you know what, you don't need another child. What if this child has, you know, a disability? How are you going to take care of this child? And then this side over here, you know, that I love so much that I lean more toward is saying, you know what, God will give you strength to do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. He will grace you for this. All things are working for you. I can do all. I had all the scriptures over here, and over this side of me, it's like, just take them out. And I began to sit down, because I love to drink tea, and say, you know what, God, I need peace. I need peace. I don't understand this. I need peace. If he does, and if he doesn't, I'm well able to take care of this child.
Yeah, and so, and the pregnancy continues.
And it was a beautiful pregnancy.
Yeah. Never
had morning sickness. I mean, it was, and I think I actually, it's kind of like a glow that was upon me, and I continue to grow in the Word.
You know what I like, though, Tammie? I like that you, because I want to go back to, I don't want us to miss this point, as we're talking about exploring your options and the thought of having an abortion. I like the very first time we had this conversation, I baited you.
Yeah.
I did.
You did.
And I said, well, you know, you would have been doing this child a favor, you know, because I wanted to know the heart of the woman I was talking to.
Yeah.
And you said, I never thought of that. You said all of my thoughts were about me and how I would spare myself going through this. I didn't think of what I would be doing for the child. And I thought, you know, we don't point that out in our culture today, because we have a whole group of people who are saying, you know, what kind of life would it be for this child to lead? We need to be able to have abortions when, you know, it's the child is sick, or, you know, all of these reasons, these instances. And we say, in theory, you know, we say from outside of the situation, well, no, it's not about that. It's really just the mother's selfishness. This is the first time that I've heard someone say, no, it just would have been selfish. I was thinking about myself.
And I think for the most part, we often think about what will people say. And I'm one of those women that I'm not moved by what people say. They're going to always talk.
No matter what you do.
And even after this show, they're going to be like, I can't believe that. Well, guess what? It is. I am the real deal. I am Tammie Tubbs.
And I wrestle with these thoughts just like anyone else. Tammie, let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to go to birthday number 1 of Aaron Tyler, the day he's born. And we're going to talk about what happens after that. We'll be back in just a little bit. Host of the Tammie Tubbs Show, Tammie Tubbs herself in studio. Don't go anywhere. It's amazing how you said for a whole year no one went to the. I mean, that's so like that's out. People don't even understand that. You know, you're thanking God for a year of no one going to the hospital, and some people go their entire life and not have to worry.
And people say, "Oh, I'm just so tired." Stop saying that. Thank God that you are alive.
Yeah.
Because these little boys at any point could stop breathing.